Hi. Completely regret my decision to not put on pants. All things considered, with there being no insulation, no heat, no nothing, it's actually somewhat warm in here compared to outside anyways. A lot of you guys have been asking for updates on this. Last video, this was just framed and we had nothing else really going on, and there's been a whole lot done since then. All right, let's see what's new. This is just trash, this needs to go to the dump. No siding, gutters, stormwater management, the biggest waste of money on the planet. Door, roof, 8-foot door, no seal yet. I'll explain. 14-foot tall door. 12-foot tall door, lights, outlets for door openers, electrical panels, concrete. And I mentioned in the last video that I sold my GTR to pay for all of this, and all of that money is long gone and then some. So this whole project is definitely far more expensive than what it would have been pre-COVID, but there's really nothing we can do about that now. And there's always somebody that says you should do it yourself. I don't know nothing about construction, and more importantly, I don't have the time to even fool with it. The reality is I'm probably not even gonna have time to use it. The worst part about this entire house is this hood rat ass gravel driveway. I can't stand it. So first day of spring, we're gonna pave everything, including, up to the garage. Might be more of a celebration for that than the garage itself. So everything's been moving along really good on this. I kind of thought I'd do some more videos along the way, but I've been busy, and most of the construction guys basically just show up. There's kind of really no warning of when they're coming. You just wake up and hear them out here, banging hammers and whatnot. So that's actually been a little bit nice. The doors ended up, they were supposed to come and then they were on back order for a couple weeks. So that's really been the only holdup. Everything else has gone pretty well. At this point though, I am waiting on the electric company to actually bring power to the building. So we had to have the panels inspected before that they would agree to do the construction, and I guess if that's what you want to call it, basically running all the power underground to get here. So probably looking at a couple weeks before we do that. But since we had that inspection out of the way, we went ahead and ran a bunch of the wiring. And when I say we, I don't mean me, I didn't do a damn thing. Long-time friend, long-time customer of mine actually did the electric. So if you're in Southern Maryland area, you need any electrical work done, I'll leave his contact info in the description below. He's done a great job, and he's helped with all the permits, and everything's been wonderful on that end. Couldn't ask for much more. This is all just trash. This is left over from where some of the stuff was shipped in. I gotta throw that away, and that shelf's actually from my basement. The light manufacturer recommended 6 of these lights for the whole building. So we did a row on this side, a row on this side, and nothing on this side yet. So I have 10 lights for 2/3 of the building, rather than 6 for the whole thing. So hopefully it'll be pretty bright. And the reason there's no lights on this side yet is I'm gonna do a second story here, and then we'll do similar looking, but not a high bay light for the top row of that. And then underneath, at least enclose part of it and do like a grind room for all the belt sanders and band saws and all the stuff that makes a mess. So this building is a 60 by 40 with 16-foot high ceilings. Obviously I did that so that I could build up. And it's the weirdest thing in the world to me, but several people have commented asking why I needed so much space. And who doesn't want more space? The initial plan was to go a little bit smaller, but I ran into 2 years of permit issues trying to get anything built. So at that point, I was just built to the absolute maximum amount of space that they would allow me to, because I'll never be able to add on, I'll never be able to do anything else here. And that's when we went from 12-foot to 16-foot ceilings as well. So kind of, what the hell does everyone always say? Buy once, cry once. That's basically what we're up against. The downside to having a building of this size is that, like, the building itself is, I feel like, maybe what you would expect, but each time you want to do like some additional thing, it feels like it's 10 times more expensive than it should be. And on that note, obviously I haven't done any insulation yet. I'm gonna have to do that, gonna have to do a ceiling. But before I commit to that stuff, I kind of want to feel it out and see how I'm gonna lay it all out and whatnot. You would think, given that it took 2 years to get a permit, that I would have everything planned out. But the reality of it is it was so frustrating dealing with that process that I just almost tried to convince myself that it didn't exist, because it was There was a period of time where it really looked like I wasn't gonna be able to build anything. So, you know, I just kind of tried to forget about it. And then once I got the piece of paper that said we were allowed to build, everything just happened almost immediately. So yeah, still got some things to plan out. And definitely need to put like a 300-inch TV somewhere in here as soon as they run power to the building. Oh, the reason there's no seal on this door is the day that they put the doors in was like the windiest day in the world. We had some crazy weather around here lately. I'm sure you saw there's snow all over the place, but super windy day. And I think it was the second to the last panel that they put in. The wind actually like ripped the panel out of the guy's hand and damaged it. So they just obviously put it up here for the time being, and there's a new one on the way. So once they fix that, and then they got to replace it, a piece of the trim, so the seal kind of goes on that trim. So rather than damaging the seal, they just waited until we replace that trim piece. That's really the last piece of the puzzle. Then the builder is out of the equation altogether, and he's been great to deal with. I would recommend him to anybody. Concrete guy was out of here probably a couple months ago, and he actually just called me last night. That reminds me, I gotta call him back. I have no idea what he could possibly want. There's no delay on him cashing any of my checks. So since there hasn't been any electric or anything in here, I've done exactly nothing in here other than use it to store some stuff. But one thing that is a little bit interesting is obviously when we did the door layout with one on each side here, I knew we would be able to drive through it, but I was a little bit upset because originally the plan was to have two doors on this side, side by side, and county wouldn't allow it because of the driveway. But now that actually having the single door in the center, I think it worked out because I'm actually a lot happier with this layout now. And I really took for granted like how functional it would be just to be able to drive all the way through the garage. Kind of weird that you make a last second decision to change it up because you get denied what you're wanting to do, and then it works out better. So in a perfect world, I would have liked to have 3 or 4 doors, you know, down one wall. But again, the way the road is, they wouldn't allow that to work either. So the whole permit process was pure hell. And like I said, this electrical panel has been inspected. Final inspection on the building is done, grading final is done. So there's one inspection left, which is just making sure that we're not gonna electrocute ourselves and die once we turn the power onto the building. And then at that point, the county is out of here completely. And at that point, I can turn this into a meth lab or do whatever it is I decide to do in here. It feels like there's been 50 different inspections, and then they just like drive by your house all the time to make sure you're not doing anything sketchy. So I'm definitely gonna be happy that all that stuff's taken care of. Left click quit working on this one. This one's new. And this is the worst thing I've ever experienced in my life. Having to listen to that all day long might be what turns people into serial killers. So thank you to everybody who gave suggestions on the last video when I asked, things, maybe some of you guys have done this before, what you recommend. So everything was taken into consideration. The 3 kind of big things that everybody went back and forth on was heated floors. I decided after some back and forth, especially with my concrete guy, decided on not doing that. Basically just because of where we live. It gets a little bit cold, and yes, it would be very nice, but I'm not going to be working out there all day, every day. And it has been 20 degrees, or in the 20s during the day and in the teens at night. And I was just out there for an hour and a half wearing shorts, and it was cold for the first few minutes. Hands are fine. I just don't necessarily think I need to do that. This is how cold it is right now. The river's frozen, or at least partially. The other one was windows. A lot of people wanted 100 windows, and obviously put windows in all of the doors. The amount of light that comes in is plenty for me. I actually, especially doing all this video stuff, sometimes having windows can actually kind of become a problem as the lighting fluctuates, throughout a period of a shot and things like that. So I think not having any windows, just to eliminate potential problem. Like my next door neighbor, he has, you can see it from here. He has I think he has 4 windows on his building. I think like 3 of them leaked, and the builder was back and forth 2 and 3 times. I'm sure that's not normal, but he had a pretty bad experience with a lot of what he had going on. So consider maybe doing windows up higher so that they're not blocking any wall space or anything like that. But at the end of the day, just decided to not do any windows. If I ever decided to add windows, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but I think I'm going to be happy with that, especially with the 10,000 lights that we have in there. And the other one was everyone was suggesting doing spray foam for insulation, which is not out of the equation. It is really expensive on a building this size, so that does play a role in it. Yeah, I'm gonna explore some different options and see what we have there. My biggest holdup with the spray foam is just kind of how permanent it is, and some of the other options if you ever decided to change things up or pull paneling out and run, wire, whatever it is that you wanted to do. With the spray foam, it kind of is what it is, but with some of the other options, if you ever decided to change things up, you could. Yeah, so at this point, the electrical is the next sort of thing. And everyone keeps asking when I'm gonna move stuff in. And really the big holdup at this point is it's freezing cold outside, so we can't do anything as far as the epoxy floors go. And if working with a buddy on some things, and if what we're trying to do pans out, it's actually going to be awesome for you guys watching these videos, and I'm kind of excited for that whole process. So again, it's the middle of winter, so I'm not pressed on moving anything in. I don't want to move stuff in and then have to move it all out to do the floors. So probably just going to, by the time the electric is in, it's going to be probably close to time for the spring to come around and things to start warming up. So then we'll do the floors, and then we can move stuff in. I really don't have a whole lot to move in, just my fabrication tools, my toolbox, and my lifts, and then everything else is going to stay at the shop, and we'll get some kind of a second set of tools lined up for the shop. Now that I'm not doing nearly as much, if any, mechanical work out of there, so it'll just be dyno. Once the lifts get out of the way at the shop, then I can set the second dyno up that's just been sitting collecting dust for the last year and a half or whatever it's been. So I'm probably more excited just to get the lifts out of the way at the shop than I am anything else. So once we get some electrical in there and actually start doing some stuff, then I'll have to find myself a new project to start and actually be able to enjoy this building. So far, everything has turned out great. And again, I appreciate everybody that offered any type of suggestions or anything like that. So that'll do it for this one. I'll see you next time.